can leave messages, 406-204-4687, usually. Email info@hotboxpodcast.com.
You're listening to A Different View on the Normal Network at live.normal.org on Mondays at 8 p.m. We're here with Sarah Frank, Iva Cunningham, and I'm Jennifer Alexander. You can listen to our replays on Tuesdays at 2 p.m., Thursdays at 8 a.m., Saturday at 5 p.m., or watch the video on demand at live.normal.org. Tonight's guests are going to be talking about a common theme related to medical marijuana in children, which tends to be a difficult topic to get out there. So we have a couple of different parents. We're going to have Mike Hyde. He's the father of Cash Hyde, a 2-year-old who used cannabis to treat a brain tumor. We're going to have Jeremy Echols, father of Alex, who also used medical marijuana for a couple of different conditions that he'll tell us some more about. And then we're going to have Georgia Peschel from, I believe, right near Toronto, Canada, and she's going to talk about her experience with her child Storm in medical marijuana. You can follow us on Facebook at A Different View 420, or you can follow us on Twitter at ADV420, and you can email us any questions or thoughts at adifferentview420@gmail.com. Hi guys, how are you doing today?
Doing good. How was your week, you guys?
It was good. How was yours?
For our listeners at home, this is going to be a pre-recorded show. I do want to say that so that you know that this is not live when you're watching it, but we wanted to wish you all a happy Halloween out there and hope you're having fun with your kids trick-or-treating tonight.
I don't have any kids, but I'll trick-or-treat anyway. Hopefully they'll give me something other than a hard time.
Probably a hard time.
Well, we'll see if I take Roscoe with me. He's kind of like our child. So if I take Roscoe with me, maybe somebody will take pity on me. But don't you two have plans this weekend?
Yeah, and you're welcome to come with us.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll get some candy one way or another. I think we're going out. And
we're going to try to take a bunch of kids out with us. It sounds like it's going to be a group of probably, 8 or 9 kids now.
Maybe.
Holy
cow. So it'll
explore.
And just you two?
No, a couple of different parents.
No,
everybody's
parents
kids together.
Bringing their children.
Oof. That's a lot of fun. I miss that when not living around my nieces and nephews. I miss not being able to go with them and take them out. And now they're older, they don't care. It's like, I'm not dressing up.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised Tristan doesn't want to dress up this year, I hear. And I thought he had fun doing it last year. So now he's like, no, I don't want to go.
Yes, they all grow up.
So.
Well, you could dress up Roscoe and bring him.
He has a couple of outfits. We have a pimp dog outfit. We have a hot dog outfit.
There you go.
Sherlock Holmes outfit. I think they call that Wishbone. We have a couple. We usually parade him out once in a while. I think he even has a Santa Claus suit. I'm not sure.
There you go.
It's ridiculous. He is our child.
Yes, so bring him. We'll get some chocolate. Not give him any, but...
There you go.
Well, I'm looking forward to our guests. Mike Hyde has an interesting story. He'll give us some updates on what's happening with his son Kashi, and then I'm not too familiar with Jeremy and Georgia, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what they have to say. And kind of, someone not a mother. It's always intriguing to me, what you guys go through, and here in Oregon, there's a lot of parents losing their children. If you're pregnant, we can't give you a card. If you're nursing, you can't give you a card. However, it's always a fine line that we walk when you talk about giving it to a juvenile, because it's not just, it's...
You kind of lose that adult consent issue.
Right.
It changes it into a whole different argument.
Right. And here in this state, with the followers of Christ that are losing their children for not taking it in for medical care, I wonder how they look at this. I'm interested to know, what their doctors have said and how their doctors have treated them, in this whole experience. It'll be interesting. I'd like to know, if they've had real symptom relief, or if it's just been a matter of, like Kashi's case. It's really an amazing story. Mm-hmm. Anyway, we'll be back in a couple of minutes. We're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back with Mike Hyde and talk a little bit about his son Kashi and their experience.
Trees are green, I'm going to the place where life falls in between the beautiful hills, mountains and streams, and man's country with my woman living free. Stay in my path, follow my road, do all the right things to
Choices offers healthcare the way it should be. Easy to access, patient-centered, team-based, and quality-focused. We offer a variety of natural, affordable healthcare treatment options like primary care, group acupuncture, massage, and assistance with OMP registration. As a patient, you will have a team of experts working with you to make you the best you can be. Call Alternative Medical Choices at 503-288-5579 or check us out on the web at altmedchoices.com.
Went to a good party just the other day. There was a lot of good folks smoking pot. I was there to play. We got a leader up in Ottawa, likes to get his own way. He's up there making laws to put them all away. Chill up, Stevie Bond, we ain't all that bad. Open up your redneck mind, laugh and don't be sad. Obama said that he inhaled, you know that's the point. And I wish Stephen Harper smoked a joint. Wish you'd come to real life, man.
And we're back with a different view. Jennifer Alexander, Sarah Frank. I almost made you sisters. And I'm Iva Cunningham. We're going to be talking with Mike Hyde. Are you there? Mike? We're trying to get Mike on the air here. He is driving to Salt Lake City. He's got an update on Cashie's situation. Hopefully we can get him back on the air.
Mike, are you there?
No, looks like you hung up.
Oh, we're going to have to call Mike back. Hold on one second. Do we have our other guests on the air? Maybe we could switch to your...
Not one I'm trying to call out.
Okay. Well, then, why don't we talk a little bit about Mike's situation while we try to get him on the air here.
Well, Mike has a young boy. They live in Montana, him and his wife, and I'll have to ask him what his wife's name is, but...
Callie.
Thank you.
Hyde.
Thank you. I know you talked to her. And he was diagnosed with an inoperable terminal brain tumor at, I believe, 18 months.
That sounds right.
Yeah, I'm not very clear on days. Anyway, it was a stage 4 brain tumor. It surrounded his optic nerve, which was affecting his eyes. Have we got him back? So anyway, and he was treating his son with, I believe, was Rick Simpson's oil or concentrated cannabis oil. Is that right?
I believe so, yeah. And I think he was doing it on his own, outside of
without a doctor's
the standard
recommendation.
medical care that he was, being given by the doctor.
All right, Mike, can you hear us?
Yes.
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for being on the show, number one. And number two, I know you're driving down to Salt Lake City. I don't know how where you're at in your travels, but can you just give us a 1 or 2 minute history of Cashie's situation and what's going on in Montana with you and your family?
How far back do you want me to go? Do you want me to start at the beginning? Do you want me to dive in now, where we're at now, or what do you guys want?
Why don't you start at the beginning and then we'll get an update?
Yeah, give us the history first so that we can kind of give the listeners a little background on the situation.
All right, well, when Cassie was 18 months old, which was last May, he was diagnosed with stage 4 brain tumor. It was called a PNET brain tumor, part of the blue cell cancer group. It was wrapped around his optic nerves and was inoperable, but they still had to go in and do a biopsy to figure out what type of tumor they were dealing with, because the way they treat cancer with chemo, there's so many different types of chemo. One type of chemo could kill a cancer, whereas the other type of chemo could make it grow faster.
Right.
So they can't just dump chemo in you the minute they know you have cancer. They got to kind of figure out what type of chemo. That's kind of the first downfall of chemotherapy, is it's so sensitive to different cancers and different, bodies.
Right.
Every body responds a little differently. So he had to go through brain surgery. They got a 10% biopsy. After that, they gave us the protocol, which was going to be 3 rounds of chemotherapy, followed by a stem cell rescue, which is where they pull all the stem cells out of your blood. It's all a matter of equation and the amount of steroids they're giving you at that amount of time, to when they can pull these stem cells out of your body. Because as they're giving you the chemo, they're actually giving you Neupogen shots on the first couple rounds of chemo to actually push bone marrow out of your bones. It's a real painful process. It kind of feels like little firecrackers going off of your bones is the way the doctors explain it.
Yeah.
And that's a side effect of the cancer treatments you're saying?
The Neupogen is to create more
Exactly.
blood cells.
So they need the stem cells because when they go into high-dose chemo, it pretty much kills everything in your body. Well,
And
it
so
does.
they
There's no pretty much about it. So other cancer patients that aren't as fortunate as Cassie, they get bone marrow transplants because like where Cassie's tumor was, it's behind the blood-brain barrier. So his cancer was isolated to his optic nerve. It wasn't floating around in the rest of his blood. Like cancer patients that like leukemia cancer, they end up having to get bone marrow transplants when they get this extreme chemo because they can't put their own stem cells back into them because they're all tainted with cancer. Go
ahead. I'm sorry, Mike. About when did you introduce chemo, or not chemo, but I'm sorry, cannabis to Kashi?
We didn't start that till after the beginning of the high-dose chemotherapy. The high-dose chemo is a roller coaster. When we got to Salt Lake last May, Cash had been diagnosed with mono for 3 months. So he was already really, really sick. They had misdiagnosed him.
Right.
And so by the time we got to Salt Lake, I mean, he was about as sick as a cancer patient gets on all the drugs they're on normally. I mean, he was on the edge of death. Right. We barely found the tumor in time. I'm talking, it was stage 4. It was metastasizing. Like when they took the biopsy out of it, they took 10%. It was 4.5 centimeters. They took 10%. When we went back in 8 days later to start chemo, it was already up to 4.7 centimeters. That's how fast the tumor was growing. I mean, it was just really aggressive, really scary tumor.
Hey, Mike. There's so much history here, and I do want to make sure we get through, the more current situation. So to kind of sum up, and I don't mean to leave it all out. I just want to make sure
you're totally fine. So after the 5th round of the high-dose chemo, Kashi hadn't eaten since like the 17th of August. He was filling up 8 to 10 times a day. He was so sick he could barely lift his head off the pillow. He was getting Ativan, Zofran, Phenergan, Benadryl, morphine, oxycodone, morphine.
And he was 18 months old.
Ketamine, every 2 hours around the clock as a nausea and pain cocktail. And I had to talk with the doctors, and he was so sick. I was like, is there anything else you guys can do for him? And the doctor explained to me that they were giving him max amounts of every drug they had possible for him, and that was as good as it was going to get. And that's when I stepped in and intervened with cannabis oil, and I told them, well, I want you guys to start weaning him off of these drugs.
But you didn't tell them that you were giving him the cannabis oil, right? I did not tell them. I
told them I wanted them to take him off of the drugs because the main side effect of all the drugs they were giving him was nausea.
So they agreed to...
How did they know they weren't giving him nausea with the amount of drugs they were giving him? Plus, those drugs, suicide, respiratory and heart failure, hallucination. Right. I mean, the list goes on and on, all the side effects of these drugs, but the most common was nausea.
How soon after you gave him the cannabis oil did you notice a difference?
You're talking that within the day. The main side effect, one of the many side effects of the chemo and the drugs they give you is insomnia. And so a lot of these cancer patients are too sick to get out of bed, but they can't actually fall asleep because of the amount of drugs they're running through them. And so you're lucky if they'll sleep 2 hours in a 24-hour period, and that's in like 10-minute increments.
And then
they
it's
fall
18-month-old
asleep, the nurses come in. And so, what was that?
I was going to say an 18-month-old baby is not going to sleep. So what? How did you administer it? What did you use?
We gave him 0.3 of a milliliter of cannabis oil into his G tube, and
that's a feeding tube, right?
Yeah. Yep, that's his feeding tube in his stomach. And within the first day, he was asking for food again, and he slept that night. And
awesome.
The second day, he was wanting to nibble on a grilled cheese, and this is out of someone that hasn't eaten in over 40 days, you know, and had barely eaten all summer long. He had the G-tube in because he wasn't eating at all, you know what I mean? And so all of a sudden, after not eating, he hadn't eaten in 40 days, and they cut his G-tube feedings off because his stomach lining was burnt from the inside out from the high-dose chemo, and he was no longer having bowel movements, and he basically, his stomach had shut down, and they had him solely surviving on TPN and lipids.
What made you... I'm sorry.
What was that?
What made you come out and talk about it publicly, though? I mean, I imagine that you had a lot of fears. You know, after I watched what it did for Cashy in October, watching him eat again, watching him sit up in bed, watching the oil heal his stomach from the inside out. After 2 weeks of being on the oil, he actually had a bowel movement for the first time in over 60-something days, and he actually passed his epithelial lining of his intestinal tract out, and they were able to turn his tube feedings back on that day, and that was a really big milestone for us in his battle. Wow.
He did his 6th round of high-dose chemo and bone marrow transplant with not one nausea or pain drug that the hospital will give you,
which is amazing.
And the doctors and the nurses, they were all amazed. They actually told me, Mike, you were right. We were making Cashy sick with the drugs we were giving him. And I was like, yeah, go write that down in your book. I have all the doctor reports. They charted him coming off of all these drugs during high-dose chemo.
So, Mike,
one of the main side effects of chemo is actually you're immunocompromised.
Right. Mike, so hold on one second. I don't want to cut you short, but we've got 3 minutes, so I have 2 quick questions for you because I want to make sure that we get this in there. Correct me if I'm wrong. You guys did experience Cashy being cancer-free after this, correct? That they had deemed his cancer to be...
we spent all this last summer cancer-free. Unfortunately, our 1-year scan revealed a tumor in the same exact spot.
So it's coming back.
And it's coming back. There was a lot of things that happened in Montana this summer. The Montana state changed the laws on us, so we had to kill all the strains we had for Cashy. And unfortunately, the only strain we kept around had not one CBD in it. We were normally making our oil off of 16 to 17 strains, and we lost all those strains, and we lost all of our CBDs.
Now, for our listeners, CBD is one of the compounds found in cannabis that does kill cancer cells.
Exactly. There's 400 compounds in the cannabis strain, and one of the main ones is CBD. And CBD is known to cause the death signal in brain medulloblastomas and cancer cells. It actually triggers them to kill themselves. Without CBDs, the oil is still awesome. It still does amazing things, but you need CBDs to fight cancer. And unfortunately, when you're worrying about going to jail or keeping strains around or what to do, you're put in a really tough spot. And so the state of Montana put me in a really tough spot, and Cashy's the victim at this point because there's no way of telling if he would have continued to get the oil from July forward with CBDs in it, if this tumor wouldn't be here. But he was cancer-free in July, and that's when he had to change his medicine. So,
Mike, I wanted to say for your benefit and for our listeners, and outside of any legal issues, because I don't pretend to know, there is a group called Project CBD that has been doing a lot of studies and research into the benefits of CBD. I would definitely encourage you to...
Awesome. They're a really awesome group. Sarah Russo is the founder of that. Her father, Dr. Ethan Russo, actually is the neuroscientist that discovered the endocannabinoid system even existed. He's right out of Missoula, Montana. That's where we're from.
Right.
So how can people find out your story, more about your story, and how to get in contact with you and how to help the situation? How can they find you, Mike?
They should fill us an email right through the Cash Hyde Foundation, or you can reach us at elkhyde@gmail.com. That's my direct email. And you can contact us that way. But, right through the foundation, you can send a message right through there, and it comes to us. You can get us on
website?
www.cashhydefoundation.com.
Perfect.
If you just type Cash Hyde into Google, it'll
Find it.
be one of the first things that'll pop up.
Wonderful. Hey, Mike, if you want to hang with us until the end of the show, we're going to be talking to Jeremy Echols and Georgia Peschel, and then we might be able to get you guys all back on in that final segment and talk a little bit further.
I'm driving down. I got to drive, so I'm going to have to get off the phone with you guys. It was a real pleasure being on your guys' show tonight.
Thank you
Wonderful.
so much,
Thank
Mike.
you.
You're in our thoughts and prayers. You know,
and
we'll take them. We'll take them. Thank you very much.
We're definitely thinking about Cashy and best wishes, and I hope this goes as well as the previous situation.
Drive safe and be well.
Cashy's a fighter, so it's just it's up to Cashy and God at this point, and he's on a hard journey, but Cashy's the man for the job if there's ever a kid to fight cancer. So
absolutely. Well, thank you for being with us, and keep us posted of any updates. Definitely.
Safe
all right.
travels.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll be back in a moment.
Army knife made a lot of good choices, but this wasn't right. It's on you how you go through troubles and strife, making choices wrong and right. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? It's on you how you go through troubles and strife, making choices wrong and right. What you gonna do? What you gonna do?
No one cared about the problems in his life. His mom's
I'm a doctor. I'm a lawyer. I'm a journalist.
I'm a student.
I'm a teacher.
I'm a representative.
I have cancer.
The outdated laws of prohibition are more dangerous than the plant itself.
I lost my scholarship.
I was fired.
20 million arrests since 1965. This is getting ridiculous.
Our prisons are overcrowded with non-violent offenders.
We have the opportunity to change.
This is costing our country billions of dollars.
Making my family and I fight in a courtroom is difficult enough when I'm already fighting through chemotherapy.
There's no reason to be scared by tradition anymore.
We can stop this.
We can stop this.
We are the American people.
We can stop this.
And you have our support.
We are old,
young,
straight,
gay.
We're every race and nationality.
And we're not going to give up.
You can tax it.
You can regulate it.
Apply age restrictions.
You can create millions of new jobs.
We can save our economy.
President Obama?
It's time for legalization.
Legalization.
Yes.
We
can.
This has been a public service norm.
She dropped me off in Nowheresville, and she took back the house keys. The keys to her candy apple Porsche and her faded tight blue jeans. She said, I'm the only man she's ever loved, but the one she could not own. I'll be sending her a postcard from the land of drunk and stone. She's got her world, her friends, her pearls. Lord knows I've got mine. My pearls are sweet wisdom. My friends drink too much wine. A subtle chain, a sweet refrain, those are my tear stains. And when all is said and done, it's this song that remains. So come on and while away these hours. We can sing our favorite drinking songs. The lights are shining bright, but there's nobody home. I'll be sending you a postcard from the land of drunk and stoned.
This is A Different View at the Normal Network on Mondays at 8 p.m. Our next guest is Jeremy Echols. Jeremy, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can. Hey, Jeremy. You're the father of Alex, and you guys are here in Oregon. And why don't you give us a little bit about your history? Tell me a little bit more about Alex's story.
Alex was born 2001, diagnosed with a fairly rare condition known as tuberous sclerosis. It's the leading genetic condition related to autism, leading genetic cause of autism, I should say.
Yeah.
When he was around, he also has seizures and various other problems, but we're going to focus mostly on the self-injury. When he was around 5 years old, he started hurting himself pretty badly, beating himself up to the point of bruising, bleeding, and we ended up getting a lot of it on video, originally to prove that it wasn't us doing it. We had a CPS complaint because he would hurt himself so badly. Around the end of 2009, we realized we couldn't keep things going the way they were, and we were looking for any alternative we could. He had been on dozens of medications, about a dozen alone just for behavior-related situations. Lamictal, Keppra, Risperdal, Zoloft, Clonidine, hydroxyzine, naltrexone, triliptol, just a bunch of...
These are very heavy narcotic drugs, correct?
How old was Alex when you said, or when he started exhibiting the first symptoms of his conditions?
What's that?
You said he was born in 2001, so how old is Alex now?
He's 10.
He's 10 now. And how old was he when he first started exhibiting the symptoms of those conditions, the autism and the rage and the just...
Tuberous sclerosis itself presented first as seizures when he was 6 weeks old. The autism was, we noticed that about 2 years old, and the rage, his first episode was around 3, but it was an isolated event at that point. It got very serious around 5 years old.
And so, how long did you guys continue on all of these different narcotic medications? When did you decide to change course?
We had hit a point where we had to have a discussion about whether it was time to institutionalize him. That's not quite an accurate phrase. Put him in a group home, basically, not have him with us. When we got to that discussion, my wife actually did a bunch of research on anything that could help with the kind of rage that he was directing at himself. And she ran across a few studies of kids who had been helped by medical marijuana.
I apologize. I'm kicking a cold here.
Not a problem.
So, the time when you guys were talking about putting him in the group home, about how old was he at this point?
He would have been 8.
Okay. And you said that there was some question about whether his self-injurious behavior up until this point was a result of you guys. How did that progress? I mean, was it just a doctor mentioning it? Was it an investigation? I mean, what led them to change their opinion that this wasn't occurring first?
A neighbor reported us. I don't know what was said. It was all anonymous.
Yeah.
Child Protective Services came to our house, told us we had to do a drug test, which of course we passed.
Right.
They checked on Alex. They checked with doctors. It was pretty cut and dry when you look at his records, but we didn't want to take any risks, so we made sure we got videos of what he does to himself so that nobody could ever say we were doing it to him.
And then at the point when you guys were discussing a group home and you decided to try cannabis, how did that go? How did you guys introduce this to Alex, and what were the results?
Well, we found some stories on the internet about people having good results with it. We looked into Oregon law and discovered that his seizures gave us the option to try and get him on a card, get him a medical marijuana card, and we didn't even know that marijuana could help with the seizures. The list of medications he was on for seizures was ridiculous already.
Right.
But we had no idea up until the rage got so bad that we looked into it.
And
so
were you
we
able?
Looked into it,
were you able to find a doctor right away to help you with this?
Yes, we went to an alternative clinic somewhere in Ashland, and the doctor, their first reaction was, he's an 8-year-old child, we're not going to give him a card. We'll look over his paperwork if you really want, but there's a very good chance we're going to deny him.
Right.
And when they saw his history, having seizures since 6 months old, it was a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So we got the card. We got a donation of hash oil from one of the people working at the alternative clinic, and we started trying to figure out how to dose him. Very challenging task.
How do you dose him now? What have you found to be the best method or an appropriate dose for him to control his rage outbursts?
That's been our number one challenge. We don't know. We gave him.
You found
he's autistic.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry. What?
No, go ahead. Sorry.
He's autistic and completely nonverbal. He can't tell us when he's feeling better, when he's feeling sleepy, when he's feeling dizzy. He can't tell us any of these things about any other medications. So we just had to guess and hope that we got things right.
So has he had? Has he had fewer?
We originally gave him. Sorry, go on.
Has he had fewer outbursts, or do you find that his demeanor is calmer, or are you still trying to determine what dose is effective? Are you still trying to walk that balance?
The story. We don't have a happy ending.
Yeah.
We tried various dosing options. We have some videos of some amazing results when we just got things just right. But he doesn't. When he gets into his rage modes, he doesn't eat consistently. So we couldn't get him to eat brownies, for instance. We can't get him to take the oil consistently. When we did get him to take the oil, it was still pretty hit and miss because we had a very tough time measuring it and making sure he actually swallowed it. He very much likes to play with his food, so a lot of food ends up on the floor. Same sort of situation with the oil. Unfortunately, in February of last year, we had to have him placed.
Oh, that must have been devastating. So,
yeah.
So I am assuming that you guys are still trying to find some way to bring him home. Or are you still looking at that, or where are you guys at with it?
At this point, we don't believe that he will ever come home. Part of that is because we can't find any resource as far as how do you get this in a form that he will take, and the right strain, the right dose, getting it in his body consistently. And even if we find that, the state won't let him have it in a group home.
Right. And it's gotten a lot more challenging with doctors recently. There's been a lot more, not more oversight, but more scrutiny in looking at the doctors recommending to minors, even though there's only less than 50 out of 50,000 patients in Oregon. I mean, it's clearly a very small minority, and I at least believe that the greatest majority of the cases are severe, like Alex's case, where it clearly warrants the use.
Oh, yeah. Alex's primary doctor actually recommended it most recently for the renewal. He looked at it. A pediatrician, not an alternative health doctor, not somebody that you can claim is a quack or anything.
Right.
Standard doctor, he looked at Alex's situation and said, I believe medical marijuana can help this child.
Which is exactly how it's supposed to work. I'm so sorry to hear that it didn't work out for you, and I'm hoping that with changing the laws, we can make it more practical for parents in situations like you, where we can make it available for them.
If anybody's listening to the show that has any suggestions or is kind of going through what Jeremy is going through, please let us know. You can either email us or comment on our Facebook. I can't remember what the links are.
Facebook.com/a-different-view420 is Facebook. And then our email is a-different-view420@gmail.com.
Okay.
And our Twitter is ADV420.
And then, Jeremy, how can we get a hold of you? How can we get people in touch with you?
The easiest way is the website that I've got. Started off as kind of the fight to get medicine in the home. Now it's more of just us talking about his visits and such. Mm-hmm. It's alexneedshelp.com.
And now this website, it contains kind of your journey, correct? From starting with the cannabis and then going all the hurdles and the decision to put him back or put him into the home. And thank you.
It starts after we put him in the home.
Oh, okay.
That's when we first had the battle, because when we first had the cannabis, we thought we could figure it out, and we just didn't.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Jeremy, for joining us tonight. And when we come back, we'll have Georgia Peschel from GeorgiaTunes.com, and she'll tell us a little about her story a successful story with her son Storm and cannabis use in Canada. Thank you. Here's some music.
Orderly conduct, living in fear.
The elements of the state are love.
As one man, I can't change the earth, but remove one brick and all may tumble to the dirt.
So cold without you, so lonely.
As one man, I can't change the earth, but remove one brick and all may tumble to the dirt.
The elements of the state are love.
I stand my own ground and look death in the eyes. Use my last breath to try, never rest till I rise. Fist raised till demise synchronized. There's power in numbers. Unite to stand tall. Was this land without us? And fuck those who doubt us. You can take my guns and home, but my pride I own. Fuck a throne. I'll never salute you. King to no man you see through. Poisoned all the people, there's no army or one. Your army protects funds, oil and stocks, foreign soil and precious rocks. We can place blame and live through excuses. We can take the reins and get rid of the useless. I love this country, so never confuse this with hate. Fuck George Bush and all who dictate. It's time to awake before we die from greed.
The elements of the state are love.
As one man, I can't change the earth, but remove one brick and all may tumble to the dirt.
So cold without you, so lonely.
As one man, I can't change the earth, but remove one brick and all may tumble to the dirt.
The elements of the state are love.
Alternative Medical Choices offers healthcare the way it should be. Easy to access, patient-centered, team-based, and quality-focused. We offer a variety of natural, affordable healthcare treatment options like primary care, group acupuncture, massage, and assistance with OMP registration. As a patient, you will have a team of experts working with you to make you the best you can be. Call Alternative Medical Choices at 503-288-5579 or check us out on the web at altmedchoices.com.
Hey baby, come here for a second.
Welcome back to A Different View with Iva Cunningham, Jennifer Alexander, and I'm Sarah Frank. We're talking tonight about cannabis use and children. And next up we have Georgia Peschel. Georgia, are you there?
Yep.
Hi, Georgia. Georgia,
I'm here.
How are you doing?
Pretty good, thanks.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We'd just like to hear a little bit first about Storm's story and how you started the journey towards cannabis use.
Storm was diagnosed when he was 3.5 with a progressive to terminal bone disease, incredibly rare. His bones in his body are all slowly fusing together, starting with the smallest bones, which of course are in the ear. He's losing his hearing. It's affecting his sight. His fingers have started to fuse. His feet have fused. His spine is starting to fuse. But, initially they said he would only be here till he was about 12, and he is 19.
Oh, wow.
Wow. So it's safe to say something good is working?
Yeah, for sure.
And how old was Storm when he started using cannabis?
Storm was 14, and
what kind of brought you to that decision?
Researching, when you have a child that suffers from chronic pain, and it was chronic pain since birth, the options that they were telling me were very frightening. It was morphine, it was heavy narcotics, and they would cause more damage in the long term than the actual disease. So I started to research, and cannabis kept coming up, and I got some. And I called him and told him I wanted him to try something. His dad and I had discussed it at great length. It was funny because when he was 14, he thought we were testing him, and he assured us that he didn't do drugs.
You can imagine, at 14 thinking, wait, Mom wants me to do what?
Yeah.
So how did that go? Did he smoke it initially, or was there a different application method tried? How did you introduce it to him?
I didn't even know myself really what a bong was, but from what I'd been looking at, that's the way we went.
Okay.
And I didn't, I'm not much of a baker to begin with, and I wouldn't have known how to dose or anything. Mind you, I've certainly learned a lot in the past 4 years.
That happens.
Yeah, and, as soon as the more we learned, as soon as we could, we got him a vaporizer shortly after. But honestly, the results with Storm were immediate. And there was no going back at that point. And then we approached the doctor. I tell everybody, every doctor. And they suggested that Storm do his research, which I thought was terrific because he's a very intelligent young man. And at 14, it's a big responsibility.
Right.
And
now how old is he again? You said 19?
Yeah, he just turned 19.
So obviously he went through his teenage years as being the kid. How did that work out with his peers? I wonder, was he known as the kid with pot, or how did you work that out?
The second Storm became legal, which was at 15, here in Canada, thank God.
Yeah.
I went immediately to the high school, and I told them the situation, and this is my kid. I don't need any added bullshit. And we just dealt with it. But Storm's he's an intelligent young man, and he's very respectful. It's not something he was going to do standing outside of the school. It's not a joke to us. It's his medicine, and we treat it like that, very much so.
Were there other people who kind of gave you guff? How did your family respond to that? How did you tell your family that you were now going to be giving your son cannabis?
My family, I'm blessed because when you witness what we've gone through, and like I said, he's suffered chronic pain since birth, and when you witness what we have in the past few years, everyone is for it completely because they don't want to see him suffer anymore. And I'd really like to add that the important thing about cannabis is not only is my son not suffering, but our family's not suffering because we don't have to watch him suffer anymore.
I wanted to ask, do you feel that is the most effective way of people understanding how important the cannabis is by them seeing those results firsthand? Do you think that really changes the perception?
I think there was a lot of things. Shortly after, he became an honor student.
Awesome.
He could finally focus on life and not pain and not hurting. He started to enjoy himself more. His attitude changed. He lost weight. It's just been It is. It's truly a miracle. That's how I feel about it.
You must have people that probably just think you're absolutely crazy. How do you deal with those opponents who challenge you on this? I mean...
I can quite say to people very simply, walk in my shoes. Mm-hmm. As for the other parents that have been on this show, anyone who has any idea of passing any judgment, walk in our shoes.
Right.
See your child suffer, live with it every day, and then you come and talk to me. But until then, and educate yourself.
Now,
because until then, I don't even want to have conversations with some people. It's not worth my time.
Now, is Storm your only child, or do you have other children?
No, he was the only child. When he was diagnosed, they also told us that it was genetic, and that they told us we shouldn't have any more children.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very much impressed with your story. I think it's amazing to hear that he's an honor student, that he did so wonderful, and it's inspiring. There's so many people trying to use there's so many people trying to use medical marijuana for their children, or in what some people consider questionable situations, and I don't think a lot of people have considered the ramifications. I mean, when you're talking some of these most horrifying medicines or cannabis, and people are afraid of the cannabis but are okay with these other medicines, there is so much education that needs to be done. You sound like a very strong spokesperson. Do you participate in outreach and activism related to this as a general rule?
Well, I've always been an artist, and it's been very difficult with Storm because, to be quite honest with you, it's heartbreaking because
sure.
And it's still happening. It's still progressing, his disease, and I'm a mom, and so I draw. And then my cartoons started to get a lot of attention, and I really do. It's become my job. I educate every day. I read. I find out. And, I think once parents are forced to look at the alternatives, when you're pumping your child with synthetics and morphine and see what it's doing to them, cannabis looks more and more appealing every second. So
absolutely,
trying to educate people with that now is it's my goal. I am determined. If there's any parents out there, say for example, children with arthritis, I want them to know. I feel it's a sin if we don't, because people should really know what this is doing.
Yes,
absolutely.
And now with your cartoons, I've seen them. I love your cartoons. You're such an excellent and skilled artist. Thank you so much, Georgia. It was an interesting way that Georgia and I met. We kind of tried to contact each other at the same time on the same day, and it's been great since, and I'm so glad to have you on our show. Can you tell us where we can find some more, your cartoons, and where we can learn a little bit more about Storm's story and about your journey with cannabis?
Yeah, I'm now very fortunate and lucky to say that I am in 8 different publications. I'm in several in the United States. I know Michigan, Arizona, Greenleaf. I'm in Treating Yourself magazine, which is an international magazine. I have a website, georgiatunes.com, and it has the link to Storm's story right on it, as well as all of the cartoons. And, some people say, what are you doing? Why are you putting them on Facebook? And you should be making money. And I put them on. I try and put one on daily, and I say, share. Share. Mm-hmm. Because coming from a parent, I really do think we have a right to speak up. And I think people might listen to us a little bit better than the average cannabis consumer, because we're not doing this for fun. We're doing this because we have to.
Life-saving.
We're very serious in what we're saying. And Georgia's cartoons, they're funny, they're great, but they're serious, and each of them has a message. And it was great the other day. I walked into a growing store here in Portland and opened up a magazine, and there was one of Georgia's cartoons. And I was like, oh my goodness, she's spreading the word through these cartoons. So definitely check that out. And it's georgiatunes.com. Is that what you mentioned?
Yes.
Okay. And on Facebook too, correct?
Yes, Georgia Tunes. I don't want to encourage Facebook because it's going like wildfire, and it takes me almost 2 hours just to keep up with it. And when I'm doing that, I'm not drawing. So
Yeah.
Well, we'll send them to our website. You can also find Georgia's cartoons and stories at momsformarijuana.org under testimonials. And thank you again so much, Georgia, for staying with us, and we'll be right back after this break.
In our own worlds, we'll be okay. Oh yeah. The clock ticks faster on these days, yeah. And ticking talks the way can love rushes. Let's try to relate. In a bright world, we'll be okay. Georgia.
Hi, this is Willie Nelson, and I need your help. Alcohol prohibition didn't work in the 20s, and marijuana prohibition isn't working today. It's time we stop arresting law-abiding citizens because they prefer marijuana over alcohol. Nearly 2,000 Americans are arrested every day on marijuana charges. We're unfairly destroying the lives and careers of hundreds of thousands of people each year simply because they smoke marijuana. These are not criminals. They're average citizens like you, good neighbors who work hard, raise families, pay taxes, and contribute to their communities. We need your help to end marijuana prohibition once and for all. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
This is a message of a world in war. This is a message of a world in pain. This is a message to our global leaders. This is a message, a cry out for freedom. This is a message of a world in war. This is a message
And
of a world in
we're back
pain.
with a different view. You're listening to Jennifer Alexander, Sarah Frank, and I'm Iva Cunningham. And this evening we've been talking with three parents, Mike Hyde, whose son is Cashy, battling brain cancer, and Jeremy Echols, whose son's named Alex, and he has autism, and Georgia Peschel, and her son is Storm, and he's dealing with a lot of chronic pain. My question to all of you, I hope, Jeremy, are you still there?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Now Mike has left us, though.
Yes, Mike had to go. He's driving down to Salt Lake City, but we have both Jeremy and Georgia on the line listening to us. I've always had when I have a clinic, and oftentimes parents will come into the clinic and their children are of different ages, and we have to be very cautious for obvious reasons. I always like to have a conversation with the parents, because sometimes, I unfortunately have to say I'm worried about the child having the maturity or be able to handle the responsibility, and and that falls onto the parents. And I can't imagine, when Storm became a teenager, how that must have just scared you to death, to think you were going to be handing your child marijuana, and what your family, what your friends, are you going to be ostracized, and then how is he going to handle that responsibility? Can you tell me a little bit about your experience with that?
Are you asking about Storm in particular?
Yes, Storm. And you're...
again, you have to speak to your child, and you have to explain to him it's medicine like anything else. Right now, Storm has complete control, and I can tell you that even that helps me sleep better at night. I don't worry about my son overdosing on cannabis. Thank God.
What about his peers? Do you worry about his peers?
Yeah, sure, because there's some kids that do just want to get high, and Storm would see some of them would be hanging around, well, he would quickly end that because it's not worth it to us. When you're suffering and you're using it for different reasons, it quickly stops becoming a joke. And
Right.
He has no problems telling people this is my medicine,
Right.
and he knows he feels the difference. So. It's all a matter of educating everybody, whether it's your friends or your family, or you just have to tell them out straight.
Now, Georgia, you're in a country that has a regulated medical system for cannabis, kind of, and I say kind of because we're all, fighting on the same level there. But compared to here in Oregon, where the access to it is still limited and is still, the availability to the quality and the quantity that you need with even in Montana with the laws that continuously change, what do you see the differences coming from, between America and Canada's policies regarding cannabis?
Unfortunately, right now, Canada's having some problems of its own, and the cannabis program is not doing very well. For example, when people first applied, a lot of people, they would give them the rights to grow their own medicine as well. Well, now they're changing their mind and trying to take that away from a lot of people, which is disgusting because, I like to draw, they like to grow. It brings people peace of mind. I do stay on top of a lot that's happening in the United States, and I'm disgusted by some of it, especially a couple students I've heard of that are using cannabis and the school won't let them, or that sort of thing.
Right.
I think everybody just has to put it into perspective, and this should be about ending suffering. It's that simple. It shouldn't be about anything else.
Thank you so much, Georgia. I did want to come back to Jeremy really quick and ask really quick the same kind of a question. Did you experience any social ostracization, I guess is the word? Did anybody give you negative feedback when you guys were using cannabis for Alex?
We were terrified about the prospect. We wrote up a whole big thing we were going to send our friends and family to explain to them why, he's been on this drug with these side effects, he could have died on this drug. And in the end, we never had to send that. Once we told people the situation, we had complete acceptance.
So very, very open to it, which I think is the true trend that scares the heck out of some prohibitionists out there, that most people do understand that marijuana actually does work. It does have these wonderful properties, for so many different conditions, and we really need a legal environment so that these complications of using it aren't so problematic. There's so much benefit in using it, and with Alex as the example, I mean, if you guys were able to know what doses you were giving him and what strains, then you could repeat those good experiences.
Well, not just that, but a way to administer it to him, because that seems to be the issue. Am I right?
Administration, figuring out dosing, figuring out the right strain.
And the fact that we have this medication that isn't being given through a doctor's guidance. He's not guiding in that dosage, and he's not guiding in these instructions and helping figure out that delivery method. I think that's, one of the things we should be focusing on.
That's an interesting question. Did either one of you have any assistance from their regular doctors that are primary care physicians? We're going to be leaving here. Just want to leave you with that idea, or can you briefly sum that up for me?
I just would like to say that, no, we have to figure it out on our own, but I think the doctors need just as much education, and it's our responsibility to do that. I tell every single doctor, whether it's for my son or myself, about cannabis. I think they're just as ill-informed as we are most of the time.
And then real quick, Jeremy, 10 seconds or less, did you guys have guidance with your doctor?
We didn't have guidance. Even when we finally asked, the doctors just weren't sure. There's just not a lot of research.
So it's very much left to figure it out on your own with our kids, which are so precious, and it shouldn't be that way. You should be able to work with your doctor. We do have to wrap up the show. That you're listening to A Different View, Mondays live at the Normal Network at live.normal.org at 8 p.m. Pacific Time. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you so much, Georgia, Jeremy, and Mike, who's left the scene right now. But thank you guys so much for being here and telling your stories. It's very important. Thanks.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, everybody.